Thank you, Mr. Williams, and a pleasant good afternoon to everyone. It's my task to share with you the Health Emergency Operating Center's situation report for today, April the 7th, 2021. To date, the Federation would have reported only 44 confirmed COVID-19 cases, and I would like to say that all 44 cases have now fully recovered. Yes, all 44 cases have recovered, and so we have 0 active cases. In terms of hospitalizations, only a few, maybe about 3 or 4 of all cases were briefly hospitalized. Now, based on the World Health Organization's dashboard, to date, a total of 132 million persons have been impacted by COVID-19, and about 2.87 million deaths have occurred as a result of this disease. Now, vaccines have been administered globally, and to date, over 604 million doses of the different types of vaccines have been administered. In terms of what's happening in the United States of America, 30.86 million confirmed cases have been reported from that jurisdiction, and over 556,000 deaths as a result of COVID-19. CARICOM, in terms of the CARICOM member states, collectively, we would have reported over 142,000 cases, and over 2,289 deaths have occurred within the CARICOM region as a result of COVID-19. In the Eastern Caribbean islands, meaning the 9 OECS territories, collectively, 11,286 cases have been confirmed and over 147 deaths. And again, the COVID-19 vaccine rollout is taking place in each of these OECS territories. Now, in terms of comparison, Anguilla would have administered its first dose to 37.6% of its population. In Antigua and Barbuda, they have covered 27% of their population with the first dose. Barbados, 22%, Dominica, 24.6%, Grenada, 9%, Montserrat, 31%, St. Lucia, 12%, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, almost 10% of their population have received the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. And well, most of these islands have received the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine, save, I think, Anguilla and Montserrat, which are HEOCs, United Kingdom Overseas Territories. They may have received either Pfizer-BioNTech or the Moderna vaccine. Now, in St. Kitts and Nevis, as at yesterday, Tuesday, the 6th of April, we would have administered 9,774 vaccine doses so far. And this is just over a 6.5-week period. So, in other words, we would have covered almost 30% of our population in terms of administration of the first dose of the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine. Now, just again, by way of comparison, I'm looking at our source markets. So in other words, we depend heavily on tourism, and most of our tourists come from the United States of America, Canada, United Kingdom. So what's happening in these 3 territories with regards to COVID-19 vaccination? So to date, as at today, and this is based on data from the New York Times, now 33% of the U.S. population would have received their first dose of one vaccine. There are 3 vaccines being offered in that jurisdiction. Pfizer, BioNTech, Moderna, and the Johnson & Johnson. And the US have only vaccinated, meaning fully vaccinated, 19% of its population to date. Now, in terms of Canada, Canada has only administered or fully vaccinated a mere 2% of its population. Now, the United Kingdom has only vaccinated, meaning fully vaccinated, 8.3% of its population. And please note, the vaccines have been rolled out in these territories as far back as December 2020 and January, between December, January of this year. So they've been at it for much longer than we have. And so we are doing quite well in terms of our being almost at 30% in terms of administration of the first dose in just 6.5 weeks. Now, to date, St. Kitts and Nevis, we would have tested 12,733 persons in terms of COVID-19 testing. We would have received 44 positives, so that gives us a positivity rate of 0.3%. And this just confirms that at present we have no active cases, so no one is in isolation being monitored. All 44 cases would have recovered. However, we continue with our monitoring our quarantine sites, because all inbound passengers, they automatically go into quarantine. They are being monitored before official release. Again, this just highlights some basic information about the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine that is presently being offered in the Federation. Please note, if you accept this vaccine, you would have an 83 risk reduction in contracting COVID-19 if you are exposed to same. So in other words, if inadvertently the virus comes or is reintroduced into our federation, and if there is a cluster or community spread, there will be an 83% risk reduction in your contracting this disease. We are presently using a dosing schedule of 10 weeks. So we give the first week, the first dose, and you are given a 10-week appointment to come back for the second dose. But please note that you can get your second dose anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks. So that's the recommendation from the World Health Organization. We are administering or giving this vaccine to adults over 18, and then the side effect profile remains minimal, and this is based on the information from the over 9,000 persons that we would have vaccinated so far. And then please note that the original batch of COVID-19 vaccines were manufactured by the Serum Institute of India, which is a reputable organization that produces over 60 to 90% of all the vaccines used globally. These are a summary of the post-vaccine symptoms being experienced by our people. Some complain of tenderness at the injection site, feeling cold or having chills, mild fever relieved by paracetamol or acetaminophen, feeling of fatigue, malaise, and general body aches and pains. These are just some of the post-vaccine symptoms that we are hearing about from the individuals who would have received their first dose of the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine. Now, on February the 11th, we would have received 2,000 doses of the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine. On March the 1st, we would have received an additional 18,000. And so at present, we would have almost covered the first 10,000 persons with the first dose of this vaccine. And we hope to accomplish this by the end of this week. Now, just this afternoon, the Federation received an additional 21,600 doses of the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine through And these doses were accessed through the COVAX facility, which we signed on to last October. So we would have received enough vaccines to cover an additional 10,800 persons. But please note the shelf life of all the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccines is quite short, and so we don't have a lot of time to play around with. And so we want individuals who have decided to accept this vaccine to come forward. You know, you can access same at any of the 17 health centers throughout the Federation. Access to the COVID-19 vaccine is crucial to curbing the spread of COVID-19 infections. Now, our aim as a federation is to reach the herd immunity threshold of 70% by summer of this year. What does this really mean? And so we are hoping to fully vaccinate 70% of our population by summer of this year. And this herd immunity threshold, if we achieve this goal, the adults in our population who would be vaccinated would provide indirect protection to those who aren't, particularly our children who are under 18 and who cannot receive this vaccine. Today happens to be World Health Day. So every April, on the 7th of April, World Health Day is celebrated. And the theme for this year is Building a Fairer, Healthier World. And that's interesting in the context of COVID-19. It was Virgil who said, and I quote, "The greatest wealth is health." We can't accomplish much if we do not enjoy good health. This World Health Day, the World Health Organization is calling for action to eliminate health inequities as part of a year-long global campaign to bring people together to build a fairer, healthier world. It highlights the WHO principle that health is a fundamental human right. How can you achieve good health? And these may seem simple, but they are fundamental to our enjoying good health and wellness. All right, so our ability to consume healthy meals, our consumption of fruits and vegetables in the adequate amounts or the recommended proportions, our drinking sufficient amount of simple water, making sure that we are well and adequately hydrated, engaging in regular exercise at least 3 times a week for at least an hour, making sure you wash your hands before eating, and making sure you get enough sleep. So rest is critical to good health. So is meditation, because it helps to help us to cope with stressors, the stressors in life. We need to avoid the risky habits of smoking, consuming alcohol, caffeine, and sugary drinks. So these are simple but very, very important, and we implore you not to take them for granted. How can you achieve good health in the context of COVID-19? Very interesting question. Well, we need to remember that even though we are rolling out the COVID-19 vaccines, we still need to maintain the health protocols or those measures that have been proven to contain COVID-19. And these include washing your hands regularly, making sure your hands are clean, keeping your hands out of your face, nose, and mouth, maintaining adequate space, distance between yourselves and others, especially when you're in a public space, covering your nose and mouth when you are experiencing respiratory or flu-like symptoms. And if you are, please make sure to stay at home. So if you're a student, you are not to go to school if you're experiencing respiratory symptoms. And if you're an adult and you're working, same thing. You need to remain at home. Refrain from smoking and other activities that weaken the lungs. Practice physical distancing by avoiding unnecessary travel. And so it's still quite risky to travel, and I'm speaking or referring to air travel, and more specifically cruise. Going on a cruise is not recommended at this time. It's a very high risk, travel experience at this point in time, because the cruise ship environment does not lend itself for physical and social distancing. So we are suggesting that you avoid unnecessary travel at this time. This is just again a reminder of the essential public health actions that have proven to contain the SARS-CoV-2 virus. We want you to come on board in terms of the COVID-19 vaccine. We want you to get the facts, empower yourself with the latest information, because we want you to make an informed decision about choosing the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine. Next. The vaccine is our best shot at protecting ourselves, protecting our families, protecting our communities, and rebuilding our economy. The COVID-19 vaccination is our only hope. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Laws. We apologize for Mr. Abdias Samuel, who had an emergency and who is not here today.